Continue on some of the environment debate now. I'm joined by the Deputy Premier of New South Wales, the Nationals leader, Mr Barilaro. Thanks for joining us, John. I don't know how much of that interview you heard, but Susan Lee said quite understandably and sensibly that no government should sign up to a long-term climate target without some sort of plan of policies and costings to get there. Your government's signed up to what you say is an aspirational target of net zero 2050. There's no plan or costings to back that up, is there?
Yeah, look, firstly, it being an aspirational target, and I've been pretty blunt about that and honest with you on your show that on what I know that's in front of us, will we achieve it by 2050? My guess is no. That doesn't mean you can't have an aspirational target. We as a state have signed a bilateral with the federal government that sees opportunity for greater investment, something in the scheme of about $3 billion coming back into this state. Gas will be at the heart of that, and in relation to transitioning away from coal in the future. So there is part of a plan. I'm not sure if there's a complete plan at this stage, and I know the Energy Minister will be addressing the press club in a few weeks' time. Maybe there's an opportunity for a plan in detail to be announced. But the reality right now is that, yes, great to have aspirational targets, but let's be realists. While we exclude certain technologies when it comes to the energy mix for the future, I think we're making it very hard for ourselves.
But hang on a second, you as a government are signed up to a target that you are now telling me 30 years out you're suggesting you won't meet it.
Well, you asked me about a plan today, and what is in front of me today, I can't say that there is a plan that tells me we're going to achieve a 2050 target. I was quite honest about that with you about that a little while ago. So the truth is, on what I know today, but as I said earlier, sometimes we try to fix today's issues with today's solutions. We don't know what technology will bring upon us in the future, in the years ahead, in the decades ahead, which will actually probably give us the answers and the technology and the ability to deal with emissions and every other crisis that a nation like ours will face.
You talk about today's issues. That's what this is all about, though, isn't it? This is a bit of virtue signalling. It's the easiest trick in the world for politicians to say they're signed up to this now. Anthony Albanese's done it. State governments, your own, have done that. I could say today that I'm fully on board for net zero by 2050, and all the lefties on Twitter would think I've finally seen the light. But there's no cost to it. Without a plan, without costings, it's just a 30-year vague promise that gives you a bit of love right now.
Chris, I agree with you, and that's why I've been quite vocal, and I've been on your show about it. You know, great to have an aspirational target, but right now there is no plan around it, how you will achieve it, and we won't be around to deal with it. I think there's only one member of Parliament that is at an age that could possibly still be in Parliament by 2050 that may be able to tell us that if we've achieved it or not. And the truth is, you know, we went from the climate change debate, now it's net zero emissions. We have this ideological pursuit around what we should do with energy. And when you look at a country like ours, energy should be our competitive advantage. We have all the resources in the world, from wind, solar, to hydro, to coal, to gas. And of course, we've got a whole heap of uranium in the ground that we're not touching, and nuclear energy. We should have energy in this country should be the cheapest in the world. It should be a policy that gives us the ability to look at advanced manufacturing, yet we've got it wrong. Decades of poor government decisions, probably driven by election cycles and ideology, and that is why today I believe that the energy policy and framework in this country has failed.
I'll come back to nuclear in just a moment, but first up, on this broader issue of the 2050 target, have you confronted your own Premier or your own Cabinet and suggested that the New South Wales State Government should walk away from that commitment and be a bit more upfront and honest about more immediate or medium-term plans?
I've been very honest with my Cabinet colleagues, and including the Premier, about my position and what my thoughts are around an aspirational target that was locked away in 2016 under then Premier Baird. You know, can we achieve it? Can we not achieve it? You know, I'm a realist. I don't believe that there's a plan there that says we will achieve it today, unless things significantly change. And but as a government, I suppose the onus is on us to put forward a plan. Well, that's not there at the moment. I look forward to seeing it, but everyone knows my position. Look, the Premier supports an aspirational target. She answered a question in question time last week saying we have an aspirational target. Maybe she's not as strong on the message as Minister Keane, who believes we will achieve it. He believes that we'll find the right solutions without destroying the economy and somehow grow a new industry. But right now, I can't see that. So I'm at loggerheads with my Energy Minister, because I don't actually see it and neither one of us will be around in the future to see if we've actually achieved it.
What about nuclear? Of course, New South Wales is richly endorsed with coal resources. It also has a lot of largely unexploited gas resources, a lot of hydro, and a lot more could be exploited. Does that mean that nuclear ought to be ruled out of the New South Wales energy mix?
Absolutely not. I think this is the piece that's missing in the conversation. And I've been lucky enough to be on your show, and for a number of years I've been speaking about nuclear energy as an opportunity for Australia as a greenfield nation, not just from a perspective of energy, from exporting uranium to bringing back waste, running waste facilities, manufacturing in the future possibly small modular reactors, which is in my mind the iPhone of reactors, smaller, smarter, cheaper, and the ability to provide baseload power with zero emissions, and yet we have a ban. If you talk about being technology agnostic or technology neutral, and every energy minister and every government seems to say that, but you exclude and there's a ban on nuclear energy, then you can't genuinely ask the Australian people to make a decision. We've had a conversation for a long time. I think there's plenty of information about small modular reactors. I'm not talking about the reactors like Fukushima or even Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island. And it's not the reactors that Homer Simpson runs on The Simpsons. This is the new age of technology that allows us, in my mind, to deliver baseload energy in an affordable way. So let the market dictate if SMRs are part of the future, and let's do that. But my fear is, to be honest, those that are in favour of climate change and net zero emissions, the truth in my mind is that's the Trojan horse for anti-fossil fuel or anti-mining. If they're genuine about zero emissions and they're genuine about the climate and this climate emergency and crisis we are facing today, well, you do have technology in front of you called nuclear energy that can deal with emissions immediately. There's no doubt about that. It is the silver bullet that they don't want to talk about. What will you do to advance this cause? Will you push for change to legislation in New South Wales so that there's nothing prohibiting this, so that there are opportunities if anybody wants to take them up? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So a number of years ago in New South Wales, we lifted the ban on exploration for uranium. There's just been an upper house inquiry in relation to that. They've just handed down their report, which says clearly we should lift the ban on uranium mining, and we should lift the ban on nuclear energy. The National Party at its last conference has a position in relation to nuclear energy being part of the energy mix of the future. Mark Latham has a private members bill in the upper house that I would say here today that the National Party will support his bill in relation to lifting the ban on mining, uranium and nuclear energy. And then that'll put the focus on the federal government, because without the federal government lifting its ban, there's no way we'll see a nuclear industry here in Australia. Yeah, well, that's a big step. We'll keep an eye on that. Just briefly, before I let you go, John Barilaro, I want to get your thoughts on bushfire relief. You must be very concerned that the loans, the grants just aren't flowing through to bushfire victims quickly enough. Is this a state government problem, a federal government problem? Where's the blockage and how quickly can it be fixed? Yeah, look, I don't want to blame game, but it is federal funding with federal criteria, and it's Service New South Wales and the state government that's rolling up their program. That's why I wrote to Minister Littleproud last week with my concerns that the criteria is so strict and so narrow that no one's getting support and our businesses are hurting. When you've got 650 applications, only 100 being approved, the rest being rejected, it clearly shows that the rules, the guidelines that the federal government has in place on their program isn't working. That's why I wrote to the Minister to deal with it. And unfortunately, I've been trying to do that behind closed doors, but over the weekend that became a story in the press and the media, and I'm disappointed in Minister Littleproud because he's tried to play the blame game. It's his program, his guidelines, yet he wants to blame the state that we're not rolling it out. My point is... Just want to get cracking. Who cares about the politics? You just want to get cracking. Exactly. Change the guidelines and the rules. I put those forward. I'm awaiting for that response from the federal government. But right now, we are not supporting the small businesses that have been impacted by these fires. They're significant, and we've got businesses on their knees. Our small businesses are the engine room in the regions, and that's why, for me, the federal government and Minister Littleproud need to sign off on the new guidelines that we've put forward, which will mean the money will flow, and that is good for everybody. That's what I'll continue to fight for. But right now, it's not flowing. And if need be, I would plead to the federal government to go through the guidelines we've set them and hopefully make some changes. Deputy Premier, thanks so much for joining us. No problem. Thank you.